Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Wednesday, February the 18th, 2026. So, of course, that means it's hump day. Hopefully, everybody's had a good week thus far, ready to get over the hump, as we're now on the downslide to the weekend. Um, so, hopefully, anyways, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Friendly reminder, as always, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. That goes for both my Rumble and YouTube viewers. So, anyways, I do need to step away from the computer for a quick moment. I'll be right back, but I will put some music on to entertain you guys while I'm gone. So, as soon as I can find the cursor here, there it is. I'll be right back. And then I'm back. So let's see. It's coming up on 4.5 minutes. So, all right. So let me talk about what's on tap for tonight. So tonight we're gonna go over the latest article from Bleeding Full on the Indie Comic Showcase, um, highlighting some more creators. Um, then, of course, that'll be our main article for the night. And then, of course, we'll do the wrestling wrap up, look back to last night's NXT. Um, Looking ahead, we'll also look ahead to tonight's Dynamite on AEW. And then we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead then and Sorry, it is now just after 5 minutes, so why don't we go ahead and get started here then? All right, so here we go. Indie Comic Showcase number 315, Tommy's Home's Undead and 1000 Years of War article by Chris Braley, published today. Let's see what we got here. So, welcome back to another installment of Indie Comic Showcase, the weekly blog where we signal boost a few truly independent creators that are currently crowdfunding their projects, crowdsourcing their funding in some way, or just completely self-publishing on their own. Every little bit of support for these creators matters, from a single dollar pledge to the $25 bundle. And of course, the higher tiers are usually fun too. Even if you can't back a campaign or buy a book, you can share or tweet about these projects to your friends and followers. On Indie Comic Showcase, we interview the creators, show off some art, and tell you how you can check out the product for yourself. Below, we have some outstanding crowdfunding campaigns this week for you to learn about, enjoy, and hopefully support by backing one or more of them. Thanks for checking these out and for being the best part of Indie Comics. Let's jump in. All right, so the first one's going to be Tommy's Number One Manager Special by Charlie Cook. Let me go grab the link, of course. And this is a Fund My Comic project. Alrighty then. So here's the link. Yeah, I'll do that for the alright. Alright, so with that being said, of course. Alright, so here's the link to that project if you guys want to go check it out. There's the link on YouTube, and here's the link on Rumble. Alright, so anyways. So let's jump in here. So first off, let me just pan back up here. Tommy's Number One Manager Special by Charlie Clark from, of course, Saboteur Comics Group. Butcher and Kitchen, Tommy's Meat Market. It looks like kind of a dark and adults only. Oh boy, okay. Chris Braley. For those just hearing about Tommy for the first time, what's the quick pitch? What kind of story are readers in for? Charlie Clark. Tommy's is a horror comic set in the 1970s in the small town of Bitter Creek, New Mexico. Once a year, the town hosts a massive hippie festival that draws college students to party, take drugs, float the river, and in some cases disappear. Whoa, whoa, okay. When the daughter of a U.S. senator goes missing, national attention turns to Bitter Creek. An FBI agent arrives to investigate and is met with resistance from locals who depend on the festival's money. As she digs deeper, she uncovers a pattern of missing youths and deaths under suspicious circumstances. Tommy's is a 32-page black and white newsprint horror comic steeped in the grime, paranoia, and excess of the 1970s. This is an adults only book. So basically, this particular graphic novel is only meant for adults, meaning 18 and up. From the sounds of it, does sound pretty, from the looks and sounds of it, it does sound pretty grisly, doesn't it? Anyways, continuing on with the article. Chris, that's a great hook. What first sparked the idea for Tommy's, and what made you decide to take the self-publishing route? Charlie, the whole idea for Tommy's started as a kind of a joke or test for myself. I wanted to create a comic book, or actually, I wanted to create 6 pages just to finish a story. I wanted an interview with, I watched an interview with Mahdi Keen, and he was talking about just sitting down and doing something, and that's where the whole project started from. As I finished those 6 pages, I began to really enjoy the process and the story that I was developing in my head. So every night I would sit down and continue to work on it and evolve the character as the pages were expanding. Chris, you're clearly tapped into a dark, grounded kind of horror. Who did you have in mind when you were creating this book? What kind of readers is Tommy's made for? Charlie, Tommy's is for readers who like their horror a little unsettling and a lot psychological. If you grew up in the late 80s, early 90s boom of indie comics, or even those raw early 70s underground books, this will feel familiar. It's aimed at people who miss gritty storytelling, visible brushstrokes, and traditional handcrafted art processes. A kind of reader who wants to feel the ink, the texture, and the weirdness on every page. The book is grounded in realism and built from disturbingly factual stories. I pulled inspiration from real world killers like Ed Gein and Joe Matheny and woven elements of the Texas killing fields highway murders. Blending those influences, I set out to create a different kind of predator, a quote unquote new type of killer who feels believable for the era. The term quote unquote serial killer wasn't widely used yet in 1976. 1976, I believe that was around the time of another famous killing spree, I think somewhere in New York, I believe. So in this world, what's happening doesn't have a name. It's just a growing pattern of disappearances and brutality that no one is quite ready to see for what it is. Chris, let's talk about your artistic approach. How would you describe your visual style and creative process as you develop Tommy? Charlie, my style and creative process are still evolving through Tommy's. I'm intentionally exploring darker subject matter and moving away from traditional superhero aesthetics and casual comic layouts. The focus is on mood, pacing, and atmosphere rather than familiar panel formulas. As the story develops, the art develops with it. I allow the narrative to dictate composition, density, and rhythm, treating each page as part of a larger considered whole. The goal is a fully thought book where the visual language, tone, and structure reinforce the realism, psychological weight of the story rather than relying on conventional comic tropes. Well, that is my hope. Chris, are you handling Tommy's completely solo, or did you have a creative team behind you for this first issue? Charlie, I'd love to have a full creative team behind this book someday, but from the beginning, I really wanted to make this first issue completely on my own, start to finish. Um, Along the way, um, a few artists contributed pinups, and that support was huge. Seeing other people get excited about Tommy's gave me the push to keep going on the days when the pages felt slow and heavy. Uh, if I'd had a team, this probably would have wrapped up in 3 to 6 months. Doing everything myself, it ended up taking about a year for this one issue, which can feel like a long time. But now that the world, the characters, and the workflow are all built, I'm hoping each following issue will come together faster and more efficiently. Chris, that's impressive dedication. What does your production setup look like? And where are you right now in the process? Um, Charlie, the production workflow for Tommy's is largely self contained. I handle the writing, art, and direction myself, which allows for tight control over tone and execution. My goal was to complete a first issue start to finish before moving forward. Issue number one is fully complete. The writing, artwork, and printing are finished, and the book is currently in production. At this stage, I am only waiting for the physical copies to arrive from the printer. So he's basically ready to send it out once it gets in there. So that's cool. Chris, you've gone through the full self publishing experience now. What are some of the biggest lessons you've taken away from it, especially balancing the creative and promotional sides? Charlie, one thing I've learned from self publishing and crowdfunding is give yourself time, at least a couple of months, just for marketing, especially if you're doing it solo like I did. I tried not to lean too hard on other people for every little answer. Instead, I did research myself, found my own printer, produced the book, laid it out in InDesign, and handled the lettering every step of the way. I did it all, and it was a pain in the arse. He said a different word, but I used kind of the British variation of the word. I guess once you really understand the full process of making a book and how long each stage actually takes, it changes you. It can feel numbing and draining, especially when you're deep in nonstop marketing, building posts and ads for Instagram and other socials instead of drawing. Man, this answer is pretty long here. I'm excited to get back to the art side again. But looking back, the whole thing has been fascinating, a whirlwind of emotional highs and lows that gives me a much deeper respect for what it takes to get a comic from an idea in your head to a physical book in someone's hands. Um, and I'll continue in a moment. I need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. I'll put some music on for you guys while I'm gone. I am back. So getting ready to continue on here. Again, friendly reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let's go around here and alrighty then. So now back to the article here. So let's see. I'm currently plotting issues 2, 3, and 4. I have a core timeline in place, and I'm developing the story using a loose Marvel-style approach, filling in dialogue as pages take shape. My primary focus is on panel composition and visual storytelling rather than locking in the script too early. I designed the book around strong page turns and clear narrative momentum, making sure each sequence lands on impactful action and revealing dialogue. This approach keeps the story moving and opens the book up to readers without overburdening it with exposition, letting the visuals carry the experience. Let's see. Chris, sounds like you've got a full arc mapped out. Beyond this first issue, what's next for the world of Tommy's? Charlie, the plan beyond the first book is complete. The full 4-issue arc. In parallel, I'm developing the in-world newspaper that appears inside the comic, designed as a 1970s tabloid-style counterculture publication. The intent is to release it as a companion piece, allowing readers to reference events, themes, and background details that unfold. Wow, that sounds good. So you get to read the comic, and then you get to read a newspaper that's published in the comic. That I mean, talk about immersion right there. Talk about getting immersed in that world. Wow. Beyond that, there is no fixed roadmap. I may move from horror entirely after this project. This book represents the first time I committed to something I genuinely loved. followed it through and completed it rather than waiting indefinitely for the right moment or opportunity. And then Chris asks, for collectors out there, any extra special editions or behind the scenes goodies tied to this release? Charlie, there are no special perks or tiers with this book. The focus is to complete it and get it into people's hands. There is behind the scenes add on for a couple of bucks extra that shows the making of the book. I'm adding a lot of the process, and the thinking behind why the pages are the way they are. I do hope people don't read the behind the scenes before they read the actual book, since it would spoil some of it. Beyond that, it's just going to be original art and may offer some sketch cards in the future, so that's in the works too. Chris, before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say directly to readers or aspiring creators out there? Charlie, my goal with this project is to show that you can get big things done when you really focus. This book was hard to finish. I work a full time job like most people, and I also freelance on the side. So finding time wasn't easy. It ended up taking about a year to complete, which feels slow, but I pushed as much as I could within that time. Even with the challenges, the whole process was enjoyable, and I can't wait to finally hold the finished book in my hands. I'm excited to finally tell this story in full, and I hope the book makes sense to readers. This is my first time writing and creating a book entirely on my own, so it's been a real challenge. I just hope people enjoy it. Chris, good luck on the campaign, Charlie. Thanks for sharing it with us. All right, so there we go with that one. So that was Tommy's by Charlie Cook. So now we're going to go get ready for the next selection with Homes Undead by Cassius Belly. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Anyways, let me go grab the link, of course. And this is an actual direct site itself, I guess. The Homes Undead website. I'll just put it back up while I get ready to. And a friendly reminder as we continue on here, if you guys haven't already, you can help out by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. And I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So here are the links. Here's the link to Homes Undead. It's on homesundead.com there. So So there's the link on YouTube, and then here's the link on Rumble. That thing goes for both on Rumble and YouTube viewers. All right, so let's get into this now. Let's get into this book and see what they have to say about this book. Homes Undead by Cassius Belli. Chris Braley. For anyone just hearing about it, what's a quick pitch for Homes Undead? What kind of story are readers in for? Cassius Belli. Killer Entertainment brings you Homes Undead. It's like Sherlock Holmes meets Vampire the Masquerade. You have eliminated. Oh, I guess there was a typo there. I guess I should say when you have eliminated impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. That's a classic saying from, but obviously they forgot to put in the W there. Moriarty was a vampire, and Holmes had been bitten. Join us for issue number 1 of this 5-part series called A Study in Crimson. Chris. That's a wild twist on a classic. Where did the idea for Homes Undead come from, and what pushed you to self-publish it? Cassius. Homes Undead was inspired partially by Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but also by a television app trivia game I was playing with my daughter, and that had questions which sparked this idea. I can't remember the exact question, but I daydreamed about a Christopher Nolan movie version of Homes Undead, starring Christian Bale as a vampiric Sherlock, and Tom Hardy and Michael Caine as young and old Watson, respectively. I imagined Patrick Stewart as the ancient vampire, Moriarty, with his right-hand man, Sebastian Moran, played by Ian McKellen. Wow, quite a all-star cat. And of course, you know that Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart starred opposite of each other in X-Men too a while back. Anyway, then I pictured Tatiana Maslany as the last of the Watsons. Our original character, John Watson. I made some fan art drawings with my daughter at the time, and it was really just for fun. But I couldn't let it go. I had self-published 2 comic books many years before this, and I decided to reignite that pursuit with Homes Undead. So Sherlock Holmes, meaning with somewhat of a gritty, grisly horror theme as well, I guess. See if you guys are saying anything yet. Nope. All right. Let's see if people are still here, of course. Let's see. Yep. So Chris then asked, so who's the ideal audience for this? What type of comic reader will get the most out of Homes Undead? Cassius? First and foremost, fans of Sherlock Holmes will be interested in this. We attempt to portray Doyle's Sherlock as faithful and respectfully as possible, but set in a natural horror scenario, a supernatural horror scenario. Many stories have had Holmes brushing up against the other side, but we put the darkness right into him, okay? Some Sherlockians may not like that, and to them I say, give it a chance. If it's not for you, I completely understand. Fans of vampires, vampire stories, and vampire lore will also find plenty to dig into. One of our taglines is, in parentheses, with all due respect, quote, it's like Sherlock Holmes meets Vampire the Masquerade, unquote. Our writer is an author of RPG material, role playing game, so there's crossover appeal for tabletop fans as well. Ultimately, our biggest goal is simple to make great comic books. So if you love great comic books, Holmes Undead is for you. Well, that's his. That might be his opinion, depending upon what the readership might decide once they have a chance to read it. Right? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But if the guy's had success before, then then there's a good chance. Chris, tell us a little about your creative team. Who's responsible for bringing this vision to life? Cassis. Holmes Undead was conceived by me, Cassis Belli, a martial artist, pro wrestler, and indie comics creator. I serve as editor and publisher. It's written by Thomas Pugh, an author and farmer from Shropshire, England, and features art and design by Virgilio Calgano, a rising star from the Dominican Republic. He says he's a professional wrestler, huh? I gotta check this out. I'm just gonna check something out real quick here. Says that caught my attention right there. Him saying he's a professional wrestler. I mean, it's possible he probably wrestled on the. I can't find anything from. I can't find anything on Cage Match, so unless he's either relatively new to the business or. But anyways. Anyways, getting back to the article here then. Chris, what's your creative workflow like, and how far along are you on the next part of the story? Cassis, issue 1 is complete and published. It began with a successful crowdfunding campaign on Zoop, and right now we're in the final days of a Kickstarter campaign that's already met its funding goal. We've also got copies in a few comic shops local to our team members. We're working on broader self-distribution and taking Holmes Undead on the road this year, starting with 221B Con in Atlanta in April and Comic Palooza in Houston this May. The art for issue 2 is underway. We're up to page 7 and moving at a steady pace. While issue 3 is currently being written, our process is pretty standard, but as we continue working together, we're getting more and more, and the product keeps getting better. Chris, what have you learned about self-publishing and crowdfunding through all this? Cassis, honestly, that's exactly what I've been learning. How to self-publish and crowdfund better each time. We're learning on the fly and adapting as needed. Yeah, that's usually how a lot of people do it. We've come a long way, but there's still plenty more to figure out, and I'm confident we'll get there. If I can offer some advice to other indie publishers, you're going to have to spend money and time, and you can't quit. You have to be consistent and push every day. That's the only way forward. Chris, Sounds like you're in it for the long haul. What's next after this first series? Are there future stories already in the works? Cassis? Oh, absolutely. There are more stories to tell. We already have a rough outline for a second series, and let me tell you, it's wild. If you think Sherlock Holmes as a vampire is something, you ain't seen nothing yet. We even have loose plans for a third series. There's much more to come. Chris, for backers and collectors, are there any special features, perks, or extras tied to the campaign? Cassis, yes, backers get a few cool freebies. There's a mini poster featuring our Holmes Undead Rob Liefeld homage pinup by J.C. Grand, and an original piece of music by our multi talented writer, Tom Pugh, titled quote unquote Last of the Watsons. Wonder if that's anything like Last of the Mohicans. One lucky backer will also win a fine art print that of that same name featuring Gian Watson. Um, Most importantly, this is your chance to get in on the ground floor of this new adventure of our dark take on Sherlock Holmes. Oh, look at it. Look at that. Whoa. That looks pretty gritty, doesn't it? All right, so Chris, before we wrap up, any final thoughts you'd like to share with readers? Cassius, just join us. We need you. We want you. We want to share this with you. There's a lot to love here. If you enjoy indie comics or want to support new and independent creators, this is for you. If you like Sherlock Holmes or Holmes with a slick modern twist, this is for you. If you like vampires, well, the dark game is afoot. Chris, thanks for sharing your project with us. Alrighty then. So now we're getting to the last of the three books featured this week. On this 306, I think it's what, 315th or 306. Let me go back up and check real quick here. Yeah, it's Indie Comic Showcase number 315, by the way. Forgot to chime that out. The fact that Chris has done this for 315 times, that's quite an accomplishment in and of itself. I guess this week it seems like the theme is horror. Well, let's see what this last book, Thousand Years of War, is all about from Hannah Rose Williams, Midnight Host. So, all right. So it looks like some more horror here. And this is also a Fun My Comic project. Thousand Years of War, Midnight Host. Let me go ahead and Oh boy. Let me try this one more time. All right. So what for whatever reason YouTube rejected it the first time, so I had to redo it a second time here, but I don't know, was able to get it in this time. So anyways, so now let me go share it, of course, on. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's what it was. I took out the midnight host part, so it may have just simply been that. All right, so all right. Well, anyways, let's hope that I don't have the same issue with. Ready then? All right. So yeah, okay. So what it was is I didn't put in the midnight host part the second time there. But anyways, so here's a link to the 1,000 Years of War Midnight Host. Might have been just too many characters. That might have been the problem. But and then here's the link on Rumble. If you guys want to go check that out. Alrighty then. With that, let's go ahead and get into this part of the article here then. Wow, already 49 minutes. I knew this was going to take a a bit of a while. 1,000 Years of War, Midnight Host by Hannah Rose Williams. So, Chris Braley, for anyone new to your work, what's the quick pitch for 1,000 Years of War, Midnight Host? What's it all about? Hannah Rose Williams. Medieval wars retold in a Mad Max, quote unquote, sort of post-apocalypse. I'm calling it medieval punk. All right. Kind of like cyberpunk, I guess. The original graphic novel was about Joan of Arc's crusade, and it was nominated for a Realm Award. This prequel focuses on the Bohemian Reformation and Muslim invasions of Europe. Chris, that's a fascinating mix of history and fantasy. What inspired? I got a fly buzzing around me now for some reason, but anyways, what inspired this concept and what made you decide to self-publish it? Hannah, for years I've wanted to make vampires into monsters again, to return them to their roots as supernaturally cursed beings. Modern vampire stories tend to make them metaphors for queerness, sympathetic love interest, or a kind of virus. While often mocking the Christian symbolism Bram Stoker used to oppose vampirism, I want to explore a different question. Quote, what if the vampire was truly sorry for what he was? What would happen if he took communion? Unquote. A story about a repentant vampire. Now that sounds interesting. I actually remember a TV series back in the 90s, back in the mid 90s, Forever Night, that had that kind of same premise, and even the goth soap opera Dark Shadows back in the 60s also kind of had that premise, kind of the idea of a repentant vampire, basically. Chris, who do you think Midnight Host will appeal to most? What kind of readers should check this out? Hannah, history nerds. My audience tends to be mostly white male millennials, um, though occasionally a tomboy girl will get into my work too. I have a lot of Roman Catholic readers because of my Joan of Arc story. I'm not Catholic, but I wouldn't call my work anti-Catholic. If it's anti anything, it would be anti-Mormon and ex-Muslim. But really, I just try to have fun and put out a good product. Chris, you clearly dig deep into historical details. Tell me about your creative process and how your style developed on this project. Hannah, I read everything I could about the Battle of Tours, the Umayyad invasion, Jan Hus, Jan Zizek, Joseph Smith, and Brigham Young. Then I tried to retell their stories in a completely different context, asking what would our world look like if centralized government collapsed and we went back to warring medieval city-states. Sounds interesting. Chris, sounds like a lot of thought went into the world building. Did you have a team helping you with this, or did you handle most of it yourself? Hannah, I have excellent friends who let me pick their brains with bizarre hypothetical questions like, um, quote, what kind of weapons would you develop if you lived in, unquote, but I made sure to be sole creator of the final work. Chris, let's talk about production. Let's talk production. How do you manage the workflow and what stage is the series at right now? Hannah, I tried to produce a new comic page every single day for 2 years. The entire 8-issue arc of Midnight Host is finished. I just need to cover printing and shipping costs. The original 1,000 Years of War, which featured post-apocalypse Joan of Arc, is already published in graphic novel form, and I'm super grateful to Fund My Comic for helping make that happen. I tried Kickstarter first, and it sucked. Okay? Uh, Chris, going through the process yourself, what have you learned about self-publishing and crowdfunding along the way? Hannah, I've learned that there are still a ton of people who love comics. They just want something with more depth than the quote-unquote current thing. Chris, and beyond this series, what's next for you? Do you plan to keep expanding this world? Hannah, there are a myriad of stories that could be told. Honestly, I don't know what's next. Let's see. Then Chris asks, any special features or backer perks tied to this release? Hannah, I printed a lot of nice stickers to give away. Chris, before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say to readers or supporters? Hannah, you guys are truly awesome. All right, so that's it for this installment. If you're a creator ramping up your own campaign or have a comic available for purchase online and you want to be featured in our weekly column, click here. So we can hopefully help get more eyes on your crowdfunding comic project. Until next time, support indie comics. Alrighty then. Oh, there we go with that. So to review real quick before we go through, we're gonna have to really do the wrestling wrap up and this thing history real quick because we're already coming up on an hour here. So, anyways, first off for Tommy's, there's a link. It's a Fund My Comic project. So if you guys want to check that out, there's the link there. Then, if you want to check out Holmes Undead, there's a link there. And finally, if you want to check out 1,000 Years of War Midnight Host, there's a link there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go real quickly here. As soon as I, of course, clear this out. We're going to look back to last night's, going to get into the wrestling wrap-up here, look back to last night's NXT, look ahead to tonight's Dynamite real quick. Then we'll get to this day in each history, and then we'll wrap things up. Let me go grab this. All right, so on last night's NXT, coming from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, with Booker T and Vic Joseph on commentary, show opened up with a match between Kalani Jordan and Lola Vice, in which Kalani Jordan forced Lola Vice to tap out to get the victory. Tony D'Angelo defeated Cutter James in a minute 19, and then basically went after Deion Lennox, who was then afterwards Deion Lennox tried to attack him and proceeded to fend him off. Then in a number one contendership fatal four-way for the WWE NXT Tag Team titles, the Vanity Project from Evolve of Brad Baylor and Ricky Smoke, Jackson Drake, the Evolve champion in their corner, defeated former NXT Tag Team champions Hank and Tank Ledger and Hank Walker, OTM Out of the Mud, Bronco Nima and Lucian Price, and the Cullings, Sean Spears and Nico Vance, with Baylor getting the pin on Spears. In a number one contender finals match for the speed title, the WWE Speed title, Eli Knight and Elio LaFleur went to a 3-minute time limit draw. So with that, because of that result, NXT General Manager Robert Stone came out and decided to make the first ever triple threat match for the Speed title on next week's episode of NXT. And because there is another person being added to the match, because this will be a triple threat match, they're expanding the time limit from 3 minutes to 7 minutes. So a 7-minute triple threat speed title match next week as Eli Knight, Elio LaFleur, and will both be trying to wrest the speed title away from Jasper Troy. And the main event saw Ethan Page retain the WWE NXT North American title over Shiloh Hill. After the match, he was attacked by Miles Bourne seeking a title shot. Bourne attacked him and attacked his ankle, looking to break his ankle with the old put the ankle in the chair and then stomp on the chair bit. Other things that happened, including a confrontation between Sol Ruca, who became the number one contender to JC Jane's NXT Women's title, with Fatal Attraction attacking and trying to triple team Ruca, only for Zarya to come out and save her, with Zaruka standing tall in the ring afterward. And you also had NXT champion Joe Hendry have a confrontation with Ricky Starks that led to the signing of a match on March 7th for the Vengeance PLE, for NXT Vengeance PLE. So that's all that went down on last night's NXT. Now looking ahead to tonight's Dynamite. That's what you have to look forward to tonight's Dynamite. On tonight's Dynamite, which will air on TBS, in a eliminator match, in which if the challenger, of course, wins or lasts the time limit, will get a shot at this title. So Jon Moxley will be trying to fend off the challenge of Mark Davis in a Continental title eliminator match, in which if Mark Davis can survive the time limit or win the match, he can earn a shot at the Continental title by Moxley. In a four-way match for the TBS title, Willow Nightingale will be defending against Megan Bayne, Marina Shafir, and Mina Shirakawa. In a tag team match, the Bullet Club War Dogs duo of Clark Connors and Gabe Kidd. Now, albeit they're still, I guess, outside of Japan, now still called Bullet Club or Bullet Club War Dogs in this case. The Bullet Club was actually merged into the new unit Unbound Company in Japan. But Connors and Kidd take on the conglomeration duo of Orange Cassidy, Tomohiro Ishii. The Brawling Birds are in action, as this will be their in-ring debut on Dynamite, as Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor will be taking on mystery opponent. And a match set up last week, of course, Kenny Omega is set to take on Swerve Strickland. So that's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now, with today being Wednesday, February the 18th, 2026, let's take a look back at this day in each history. So 86, 56, 96, and 2001. Alrighty then. So, first off, I'm going to head back 70 years ago. As on this date, 70 years ago today, back in 1956, during an event in Eugene, Oregon, Bull Montana defeated John Paul Henning to become the new NWA Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Champion in Eugene, Oregon. So on this date, 70 years ago today, up in Eugene, Oregon, Bull Montana defeated John Paul Henning to become the new NWA Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Champion. Moving on to the next piece of each history here. Moving ahead to the year 1986. So 40 years ago today, on this date, 40 years ago today, back in 1986, the 290th issue of Fantastic Four, Volume 1, went on sale on this date back in 1986, sold for 75 cents, 32 pages. The title of the story was Risk, written and penciled by John Byrne, inked by Alan Gordon, lettered by John Workman Jr., with Glynis Wayne doing the coloring. So the 290th issue of Fantastic Four went on sale on this date back in 1986, 40 years ago today. Moving ahead to the year 1996, 30 years ago today, on this date 30 years ago today, a Simpsons episode, Lisa the Iconoclast, premiered on Fox on this date back in 1996, 30 years ago today. Of course, it guest starred Donald Sutherland as Hollis Herbert and Phil Hartman as Troy McClure. Lisa the Iconoclast is the 16th episode of the 7th season of the American animated television series The Simpsons. It originally aired on Fox in the United States on February 18, 1996. In this episode, Lisa writes an essay on Springfield founder Jebediah Springfield for the town's bicentennial. While doing research, she learns he was a murderous pirate who viewed the town's citizens with contempt. Lisa and Homer tried to reveal the truth about Jebediah, but only anger Springfield residents. It was originally advertised in commercials as a President's Day special episode. The episode aired the day before President's Day. Yeah, anyways, I could see kind of how that could cause some controversy. But anyways, so now getting ready to move on to the last piece as we move ahead to the year 2001, 25 years ago today, on this date 25 years ago today, over in Japan, JCF's Salaryman Kentaro premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 2001. So 25 years ago today, JCF's Salaryman Kentaro premiered on BS1 or BSI in Japan on this date back in 2001. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow, of course. Of course, this Sunday I'll be joined by Sabrina from Sabrina from Devil Fire Momentum, as we will be looking at comics that went on sale in August 1940 from, of course, what we know of today as Archie Comics, what was known then MLJ Enterprises. And, of course, among the features we'll be reading will include the first published appearance of Black Hood. So hopefully you guys will come for that. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow for more Niche News. So with that, I thank you all for being here, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.